All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Want to call the meeting to order. Council, you see we've got a fine group here with us today, you'll notice. Not used to having these many visitors, by the way, on one afternoon. Welcome to all. We're delighted that you could come. This is the regular council meeting, public council meeting for the City of Mount Pearl, our meeting of September 8th. Council, you have in front of you the agenda for the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept it as presented. It is moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Are there any additions outside of, I believe there's one for planning and development, outside of the kit? Everything else I think is in there. Anybody with anything else to add to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried. First item on the agenda then would be the minutes and the action report of the council meeting of August 25th. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented, moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Business arising then from the meeting of August 25th. I would ask that you refer to agenda items by the appropriate number if there's any business arising. Any at all. Going once. Twice. No business arising. Call the question. We've done that. We are going to move on then. Council, today, as I just pointed out, we have a very busy City Hall this afternoon. We have a lot of people here with us today. And first and foremost, though, I want to say a big welcome to a group of people who are here from the Caribbean. You're going to notice all of these people. Some of us this morning, Councillor Walsh and I, had the pleasure of meeting with a delegation from CARILID. CARILID is the Caribbean Local Economic Development Program. It is fostered by and operated by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Mount Pearl has been a part of this particular program for several years now. Some of you will recall how we expressed such great jealousy when we discovered that our planner was off to places like Jamaica and St. Lucia and places like that. We thought he was having a good time. Turns out he was working really hard. And we've had any number of councillors, council staff over the years that have participated in a number of programs. This, though, is our very first time being able to say welcome to the partners in the program who are able to come to Mount Pearl this week and to Newfoundland and Labrador. And I am going to introduce one of their group to you, Council, and I'm going to invite him to come up, and he's going to introduce everybody else to you. Is that fair enough? Because while I met them this morning, I can assure you a quiz right now and I will fail on that. Though they had a grand chat, and we did as well, about local economic development in Mount Pearl in particular, about our business community this morning, about some of the community initiatives that we have undertaken. And I know that staff gave them a fine briefing on the City of Mount Pearl. I had an opportunity briefly this morning to speak with Councillor Ralston Fraser, who is down there, and he is a councillor from Belmopan City Council. Am I even close? You're right on target. And Belmopan is in Belize. It is a community, a city of about, I think it's 17 to 20,000 people, which makes it very much of our size. And Councillor Fraser inquired of me this morning, would we be interested in doing a little twinning and perhaps a little sister city kind of exchange of best practices, information, and so on. And I told him I wouldn't even ask you. I told him the answer is yes. So with that, I'm going to invite Councillor Fraser. If you would, Councillor, I'm going to get you to come up here, and then I'm going to get you to introduce all of the members of the delegation to us here, because I believe there's 8 or 9. I'm not exactly sure, but I think there's like 8 or 9 here. I'm going to get you to come up here. Believe it or not, you can't see it, but there are cameras here watching everything. So I got to get you in the camera shot, okay? Okay. There you go, Councillor. You go right ahead. Tell us about CARILID.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kelly there is more the appropriate person to tell you about CARILID. But I do want to take this opportunity as the councillor responsible for business development and infrastructure and investment in the capital city, Belmopan, of Belize down there in Central America. We also share geographically in the Caribbean. To thank you for having us. Thank you for this opportunity. And before I say anything else, I do want to reiterate that the first thing I spoke to Mr. Mayor about earlier when we met was to have us establish that sister city relationship where we can share and learn from each other in our best practices. And the reason why I did that was based on the information that was coming out in our meeting this morning. I recognized that there's not a whole lot of difference between Belmopan City and your city. However, there is one thing that I know you guys are more advanced in that the things we are now going through, you guys have gone through them and is in the process of developing those systems that you have put in place. And that's one thing that I know we can gain, we can learn from you in how you got through it. What steps did you make in order to get past those challenges and so forth. And we would be glad, we would be happy to learn from you guys. So, and I do want to say as well, when your people go to our countries, it's not to play. It is not to play. We work them because we want to know your pitfalls, how you got out of it, and where you are now, such that it may help us to avoid some of these pitfalls and get around them and not make the same mistakes you guys did, you know. Learn from your best practices. So they're there to work. There are two Canadians that in Belmopan right now that went to Belize. One of them is Ted. I don't remember his last name. Ted Robinson and Jason Fox. They were in Belize right now because what we're doing is that through a lot of consultation we've had with CARILED, there was a particular system that we wanted to set up, which is referred to as a BIA, a Business Improvement Area. But through CARILED, we had come to recognize that it would be best if we had our zoning laws in place. That would give us better control of establishing a BIA. And so CARILED had offered to give us assistance to get that in place. And so Ted and Jason, they're in Belize right now, in Belmopan, giving us some very helpful technical assistance in getting that done. And so that is pretty much the reason why we would love if you guys would support your mayor, because he has committed already.
In trouble already.
Yes. To support him in joining with us, becoming Sister City, establishing that relationship, and you guys can come have a vacation in Belize.
Sounds like a plan. and apparently they will. Apparently we will.
Okay. Yeah. But outside of that, there is representation here from Guyana as well.
I'm going to introduce them all and ask them to stand for us.
Yes. Could you stand and give us your name, please? Okay, would you do that, please?
So my name is Philip Kelly. I'm program manager for CARILED. I'm based in Ottawa. I've been working for about 3.5 years since you joined with Michelle and Stefan, and today with Stephen and Jason. And just want to say how much we appreciate your partnership up to now in the program and onwards. We've had a great day so far. So thanks so much. And I'm colleagues here.
Good afternoon. My name is Nikita Thompson. I'm the Director of Planning in the Parish of Clarendon in Jamaica.
Good afternoon. I'm Denzel Clark. I'm the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development in Jamaica.
Natalie Escava. I'm the Social Transformation Officer and Local Economic Development Officer in training for the country of St. Lucia.
Good afternoon. Roger Rogers, National Pilot Force in Indiana.
We're never going to forget you, Roger. Roger Rogers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roy Thomas, Local Economic Development Officer, Region 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alistair Jackie, Local Economic Development Officer in St. Catherine, St. Helena, Belize.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we have someone.
And
I'm Alex Yule, and I'm from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I'm the program director for CARILED.
Well, Alex, thank you very much. This is pretty interesting for you as well, I would imagine. This is fascinating work, has to be, and work that where you can actually see progress, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So you said I have 45 more minutes.
You got 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. It turns out that local politicians in Belize are just like local politicians in Mount Pearl.
But again, I don't want to take up much of your time, but from Mayor Khalid Bilal, who is the youngest mayor in Belize, and he's the mayor of the capital city, Belmopan. He's 34 years old, a very bright young man, has great vision, hence the reason why I am here. From him and the council, I just want to thank you and express our appreciation, and we hope that someday, maybe tomorrow or so, you guys can come down there and pay us a visit, and we will have it all worked out. Certainly Carol Ed would be glad to be of great help in that, and we can work something out and we go from there. Thank you very
Excellent.
much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. We're going to invite all of you to come up here, and we're going to get a picture with our council, if we could.
You guys want to take my picture?
We're going to take your picture and everybody's. Nobody.
The invitation is also extended to signatures. Well, I'm not really sure whether your council meetings will operate at all like our council meetings, but our council meetings could bring you the tears with boredom. Not a lot of fighting every day, thank goodness. Council, we have a number of things that we have to do today, including a great series of proclamations and things that we have to sign into the record. So we'll get at those now. First, though, I want to introduce three other people that are in our audience today. They would be familiar to most, if not all of us here on council. Mr. John Rich, who is chairperson of the board of directors at Admiralty House Museum. Along with him is Carla Watson, who is the manager at Admiralty House. And the coordinator for the Admiralty House 100th anniversary, their centennial celebration, is Allison Bennett. So, Allison, I'm going to get you to come up here with me as well. Follow Councillor Fraser, and I'm going to get you to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening on Saturday, September the 19th. Just for everybody's benefit, we will remind folks that this will represent the 100th anniversary. In fact, I believe it's this Wednesday, right? Is the actual date. Next Wednesday is the actual date for the 100 years for Admiralty House, or the wireless station at Admiralty House, which was back in 1915. Can you imagine? So we're going to have a big celebration of that, recognizing that the city of Mount Pearl did turn Admiralty House into a fully functioning and operating museum. I think we could almost use the word communications museum, but it's certainly broadening its base of interest past that these days. So Allison Bennett is the coordinator for the celebration. And Allison, tell us a little bit about what we all have planned. You come over here and tell us what's going to happen on the 19th.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Mayor Sims and Council, for having us here today. On Saturday, September 19th, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., Admiralty House Communications Museum is holding the Centennial Celebration Garden Party. And of course, that is to honor the 100th anniversary of HM Wireless Station. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background, the HM Wireless Station was a secret station during the First World War to transmit, receive, and decode wireless messages for the British Empire. So we'd ask that you please join us, dignitaries, and honored guests in celebrating HM Wireless Station Centennial. We're going to have refreshments and a variety of entertainment for all ages. And of course, Because we are a small community museum, parking is limited. And just a side note as well, you may have received notification a few months ago about the sunset ceremony. Unfortunately, that is now canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. So.
And that was going to happen on the Wednesday.
That would have happened on the 16th.
Okay, yeah, that's not, that actually won't take place, but all of the events for the 19th will.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I understand we have the Lieutenant Governor that will be attending as well?
Yes, Lieutenant Governor Frank Fagan and his wife will be in attendance. We have a variety of other dignitaries as well, including you, Mr. Mayor, who will be speaking at our event.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll only take 45 minutes to do that. Well, Allison, thank you very much. We think it's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the museum and to celebrate the history of the building. Here's something that you may not know, and for our friends from Carolid, from the local economic development program, this particular building is a heritage building, not simply because it's an older building. It's been around for over 100 years now when they started to build it. It's unique in that the actual structure of the building was designed, particularly the roofing, was designed and based on the British plan for the building of buildings back in that day in Bermuda. And that's where the design came from back over 100 years ago. So we're pretty proud of the facility today, pretty proud of what it looks like and what the museum represents. And it itself has a tremendous communications history. We're delighted that we are going to be able to do this celebration with you, Allison. I know you've got everything organized. It's going to be a big crowd.
Absolutely.
And it should be a lot of fun. The only thing that we have to worry about, dare I say it,
The weather.
would be for us the weather. Carla is saying absolutely not. There will not be a problem with the weather. Okay, well, she's got John's promise on that, apparently. John Rich is promising that for us.
Well, we thought they were canceling the sunset ceremony because they haven't seen the sun.
Yeah, it doesn't exist here anymore. Allison, we want to wish you the very best with it. As you know, the City Council is hugely supportive of this initiative. If there's anything that we can do to offer any additional support, don't hesitate at all to call. We appreciate it. And good luck with it. It's happening on the 19th. All of Council will be there. Well, hopefully all will be there for it.
Great.
Thank you,
Very
Allison.
much.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be quite something. There's a lot of interest in it, and I think we'll get a nice turnout of people, and that will be wonderful. And the museum continues to grow in its importance and in its life, and its next 100 years will be different than its last. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So thank you all very much for your help and for caring so much about it. Quite frankly, it's wonderful that so many people care about it and care about the history associated with it. Council, we have a number of other proclamations that we are going to read into the record today. The first one that I'm going to read into the record involves Sexual Violence Awareness Week. Nicole Kiley is the executive director. And Nicole, I'm going to get you to come up here with me again. Got a lot today. We usually do only about one or two of these. But this week we've got a lot. I'm going to read this into the record and sign the proclamation, and then I'm going to ask you to address Council about some of the things that you have planned. Council, the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador Sexual Assault Crisis and Prevention Centre works to provide response, information, and education to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador in the area of sexual violence, and whereas the NLSACPC is now commemorating the 16th anniversary of the Sexual Violence Awareness Week, as well as the 30th anniversary of the Take Back the Night March to further the common goal of eliminating sexual violence. And whereas the theme for Sexual Violence Awareness Week 2015 is Building Community, highlighting unity here, which recognizes the urgent need to end sexual violence and its contributing factors so that we may have safe, healthy communities. And whereas sexual assault is a crime that can affect anyone regardless of factors like age, gender, ability, socioeconomic status, cultural background, or other variables. And whereas the rate of sexual violence in Newfoundland and Labrador continues to be higher than the national average. And whereas the municipal government recognizes the need for people of our province to live in safe and caring communities where violence is unacceptable and supports efforts that raise awareness and educate the public. Therefore be it resolved that I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim September 14th to 18th as Sexual Violence Awareness Week, and I encourage all citizens to become involved in activities organized throughout the week. And with that, I shall affix my signature. And Nicole, I would invite you to address council and tell us about your plans for the week.
Certainly.
You got to do this. I keep forgetting that. You got to do this.
I also just wanted to begin on behalf of the Sexual Violence Awareness Committee and the Center. Great thanks, Mayor Sims, and to the council and to the city for once again acknowledging the week. We've been doing it for quite some time now. Take Back the Night's been 30th year and 16th anniversary of Sexual Violence Awareness Week. It really isn't without the work, support, and real champions that you find in municipalities that the work of the center. We're provincially mandated, but there's only so many of us. We have 55 plus volunteers from this community, volunteers throughout the Avalon region, and if it really isn't without municipal engagement and support, that really our message really to eradicate sexual violence and violence in all its forms could really happen. But just to quickly highlight the week, that's exactly what it's doing, building community appropriately themed, which I feel, again, for municipalities, it's a huge factor in how we are able to contribute to eradicating violence. Just to highlight some of our key events, Take Back the Night, which will be happening closest in this region, will be beginning in Bannerman and ending at St. John City Hall. Will be happening on Friday the 18th, starting at 7. It's for really recognizing the gendered lens to sexual violence, and specifically to any woman or woman-identified individual to participate. At the same time as the march, there's also a rally and vigil happening at the steps of City Hall in St. John's, and that is for anyone, and it's open to anyone really wanting to be there as an ally and recognizing the work that needs to still be done and the work that is happening right now in our communities. So again, I'd like to thank everybody here today, the city, and really SVA it's a province-wide initiative. And it's not without these sort of proclamation signings, acknowledgements, all this sort of week that we really can't bring forward that message. So again, thank you very much, Mayor Sims, and thank you everyone here today.
Thank you, Nicole, very much. With this, I've fixed a signature. This is for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much. Good luck with the week. We know that it's been an important endeavor for several years in our community and elsewhere. We look forward to this one as well. And we're going to take a picture, says Mona. Okay. We're taking a snap.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
We'll do the proper. You hold on. We'll do the proper grin and grip here. The proper pose.
Oh, we should probably take the post-it offer.
That would be a good idea. All good? Thank you, Nicole. Good luck with the week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are a lot of things to our delegation from the Caribbean. There are a lot of things happen in this man's town. And that's what this is all about. I'm going to invite Christine Henneberry to come up with me now. And Christine is going to talk a little bit about another major week that's going to take place in the city of Mount Pearl. And I'm going to read this proclamation into the record, and then I'm hoping you're going to talk to me a little bit about what's going on. That doesn't matter, dear. Yeah, I just do them. I call them as I see them, Christine. That's how it goes. Whatever's in front of me, that's kind of it. All right, so we're going to read this into the record, and it reads as follows. Whereas creativity and artistic expression can be part of every life, whether as an artist, an audience member, or a fan. Audience member fan is where most of us qualify, I think. And whereas everyone has the right to explore their creativity to the fullest in whatever capacity they choose. And whereas participation in the arts is known to increase happiness, relaxation, and life satisfaction. And whereas the citizens of Mount Pearl are becoming increasingly engaged in the arts and in the activities of the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl. And whereas it is widely recognized that investment in the arts increases the appeal and the economic viability of a community, therefore be it resolved that I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim the week of September 12th to 19th to be Arts Week in the City of Mount Pearl. I encourage all citizens to use this week to find ways to participate in the arts and enhance their creativity, either on their own or through the Art Fusion Week events offered by the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl, to which I will affix a signature. And Christine, I would invite you to tell council about your plans for this year.
Well, we have a really exciting year planned this year, as always, of course. We are pretty much in charge of excitement in the City of Mount Pearl. For those of you who are just visiting, you should maybe hang around till next week and participate in the Art Fusion events. We have a full-day festival from 11 to 4 on Saturday. This year we're a doors-open event, so we're expecting a lot of traffic from that. And, of course, we'll see you all there. Are you all going to have a booth, maybe, selling your artistic... No, wait. Paula's not here. Never mind.
And she's our only artist, let's be honest.
Anyhow, so we have that going on Saturday at Kenmount Park Community Center, and admission is free. And you can come and listen to some music, see some dancing, participate in community art. If you can make a thumbprint, you can participate in an art project. Pretty sure you're all on the case there, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, well then you'll be artists as of Saturday. I'll sign off on it.
That's good.
And we'll also have a display of artwork for sale on that day. And speaking of a display of artwork, this year we're partnering with Coffee Matters. We're having a couple of our events there, and we're going to have a display of artwork that's on auction all week, and it's going to be available for you to see that week at Coffee Matters. And the final auction, I'm just going to say assignment, but that isn't one. Once we've decided who's won the auction, we'll find out that at our wrap party as we wrap up the week on Saturday the 19th, and we're having a murder mystery that night at that event, and tickets are $25 for that. But throughout the week we have events for youth, for kids, and for adults. We have adult drop-in art sessions. You can come and play with our Play-Doh. We have journaling sessions. We have storytelling. I'm teaching a writing class. There's stories and music for preschoolers. Just about anything you can think of for any age group is going on. And we're participating in the Admiralty House Museum Centennial celebrations as well, because we are bringing some musicians and Scottish country dancers and for that event. And we're also going to be doing some crafts there. Basically, just about anything you want to do in the arts that week, we have something going on. And 99% of it is free. The only event we're charging for is our murder mystery event on the last night. So you can check that out on our website, aamp.ca, or you can pick up one of these copies from the back. I also have a couple of copies of our beautiful poster. Isn't that pretty? Mm-hmm. And basically, I just encourage you all, as we said in the proclamation, to come out and try out these things, because everyone can enjoy the arts. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing to play and make a few mistakes, because that's where good art comes from. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak this afternoon, and thank you all for your anticipated participation.
All right. Thank you very much, Christine. We're doing another one, right? Okay. We're going to do another one here. Here we go. You stand here and take a snap.
Okay.
Here we are. There you go. Thank you, Christine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our arts community in Mount Pearl continues to grow, and that's wonderful. And more and more activities all the time. This particular Art Fusion Week, I'm hoping that it will be an outstanding one. Thank you, Christine, for that. We have two proclamations to read into the record. We do not have representation here, but we will notify the organizations involved that we have indeed signed the proclamation. The first one is for Arthritis Awareness Month, which, by the way, is September. The proclamation reads, whereas September is known as Arthritis Awareness Month in Canada, during which the Arthritis Society promotes public awareness about this chronic disease that can affect anyone from children to the elderly. And whereas the Arthritis Society is the leading source of arthritis information and education so that Canadians can learn more about this disease and understand their important role in prevention, treatment, and management. And whereas the Arthritis Society is about empowering people with arthritis to live their lives to the fullest by combating the limitations which arthritis can impose day to day. And whereas 1 in 6 people in this country live with the chronic pain and disability of arthritis. Now, therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim the month of September as Arthritis Awareness Month in the city of Mount Pearl. This is a devastating disease, 1 in 6. We also have, from the Prostate Cancer Canada group today, a proclamation which reads as follows. Whereas prostate cancer is the most common cancer to affect Canadian men, and whereas 1 in 8 Canadian men will be diagnosed with the disease in his lifetime, and whereas an estimated 24,000 Canadian men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer this year alone, and whereas the survival rate for prostate cancer can be well over 90% when detected early, and whereas those with a family history of the disease or those of African or Caribbean descent are at a greater risk of developing prostate cancer, and whereas Prostate Cancer Canada recommends that men get a PSA test in their 40s to establish a baseline, therefore I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim September as Prostate Awareness Month in the City of Mount Pearl. They do all kinds of wonderful work in awareness and whatnot, but have you noticed that they're chasing our wives around now, making us go to the doctor and get checked? That it seems to be the only way as grown children, as my wife says, it's the only way that we will actually go get the test done. It did. And apparently it's going to work again. We will submit to both of these organizations copies of the proclamations as having been signed and recognized by City Council. I'm going to invite Lori Pike to come forward. Lori is board president with the Candlelighters Association. Her 2 sons are coming with her. This is Adam and Lucas. You can tell they're her children. You can tell they're brothers. And I don't know which one is Adam or which one is Lucas.
This is Adam.
Hi, Adam. How you doing? Nice to meet you. And this is Lucas. Hi, Lucas. How are you? We're going to read this proclamation into the record, and then we're going to get you to talk a little bit about Cancer Awareness Month. Council, the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas there are about 10,000 children living with cancer in Canada today, and whereas each year about 1,500 cases are diagnosed, over 25 of which are children in Newfoundland and Labrador, and whereas in Canada, adult cancer remains responsible for more deaths from 1 year through adolescence than any other disease, and whereas about 1 in 4 children who are diagnosed with cancer will die of the disease, whereas because of significant advances in therapy, 78% of children diagnosed with cancer will survive 5 years or more, an increase of almost 46% since the early 1960s. And whereas childhood cancers have close to a 75% cure rate, with leukemia leading the success charge with close to a 90% overall cure rate. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Randy Sims, on behalf of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Mount Pearl. And Lori, I'm going to invite you to address Council and tell us about your plans for the month.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Sims, for having us here today, and Council. Yes, this is Adam and this is Lucas. I am Lori Pike. I'm the president of the Candlelighters Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. We are a volunteer board of parents who have been affected by childhood cancer, children who have been affected by childhood cancer, and siblings who have been affected by childhood cancer. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and for this month, the Candlelighters have joined across Canada in order to, with the Big Book of Care, in order to raise awareness for childhood cancer in Canada. As you say, I mean, in Newfoundland and Labrador, there are about 20 to 25 occurrences every single year. About 300 families a year are going through this diagnosis with their children and going through treatment. For us, another thing that we're doing as well is on the 26th of September, we are participating in the National Inside Tour. This is an inside bike ride, stationary bikes where we raise money in order to support our programs, because we are 100% volunteers, and that's how we raise our money. And 100% of the proceeds from that will actually go to to support our programs. The biggest one, of course, is Camp Delight. I don't know if anybody's heard of Camp Delight, but it's a week-long residential camp where our children, ages 7 to 17, go to Laverack for a week, and it's fully medical team, because there are children who go on treatment. So there we have children who are going through treatment, who are off treatment, their siblings and their bereaved siblings. They go for a week, have fun, be kids, and forget about the disease. The other thing that we're doing as well at the end of the month, actually, is we started a program of survivor scholarships named in the for Dr. Jack Hand, who was one of the pediatric oncologists who passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. So in honor of his memory, any child survivor who's pursuing post-secondary education will receive a scholarship from the Candlelighters Association. So for us, Candlelighters means a lot to us. For us, Adam was diagnosed 8.5 years ago with a brain tumor the month before he turned 5. We are very fortunate that Adam actually survived his ordeal with cancer. After a 9-hour surgery, 6 weeks of radiation, and 9 rounds of chemo over 14 months, he's now deemed to be 7 years off treatment, and 2 years, well, more than that, 7 years cancer-free, so he's considered cured right now. And he's going to grade 8 this year, and Lucas is going to grade 7. So as a family, a cancer diagnosis, actually, yes, you're going to grade 6. Did I say 5?
No, you said 7.
7? Oh, you're going to go to Mount Pearl Junior High too? We're seeing, oh, okay, no, we're Mount St. Peter's Junior High. Making them grow up too fast, obviously. 6 and 7. I know. He doesn't even want to go back to school tomorrow. He does. So, I mean, the cancer diagnosis actually affects the entire family. For us, Adam was 5. Lucas was just 2. So when we say about a diagnosis, we say the family is diagnosed, because everybody goes through that as well. And it's hard financially on families. So we actually do family diagnosis kits as well. Blankets, gift cards, that type of thing to get people through the first few days. So, again, I probably went on too long, but thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you, Lori, very much. Thank you. We're going to get a picture taken here now. We're going to get you to, we're going to get the 2 boys to hold this. We're going to get you in front of us here. You guys hold this, and Lori and I will stand behind you. How's that? Thank you very much. Oh, some pins to circulate?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
There should be enough for everybody on each side. You do one side, you do the other.
Okay, lapel pin from the Candlelighters Association, Newfoundland and Labrador. Excellent. Thank you, Lori, very much. Thank you. Yes, that one's yours to take. Yeah. Thank you so much. Certainly, the Candlelighters Association, Lori, is a wonderful support mechanism for families that face probably one of the hardest things they will ever face. This is a diagnosis that is devastating to families. The support group that Candlelighters represents, both for the children that are diagnosed and for their families, is second to none. It's all volunteer-driven. It's basically all done out of love. And we really appreciate that you're able to come here today and sign the proclamation. We want you to know how much our support lies with you and with the organization. And again, as I've said to others today, I'll pledge to you the same. This council stands ready to do whatever we can to both raise awareness, to raise funds, and to help you in any way we can, and to certainly make our citizens fully aware of what the Candlelighters Association represents and what it means to the families involved. Thank you for this today. We appreciate it. Deputy Mayor Locke with a comment or a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious now, Laurie, about the incident or the rate of childhood cancer, because I teach in the high school system here. I heard you mention Mount Pearl Intermediate. Well, I teach at the senior high. And I know in my 20-year history as a teacher that I've encountered probably on a dozen occasions of young people, my students that are afflicted with this and struggling with this. So I'm just curious as to rate. Is the rate of childhood cancer, has it stabilized? Is it decreasing? Do you have any information, any stats on that you could share?
Obviously, they're not really supposed to tell us how many diagnoses a year, but we know on average, we get about 20 to 25 family kids. So it's going up. In my mind, I grew up in that Pearl, and just knowing the number of incidences alone, I do personally believe that it's going up. Adam went to St. Peter's Elementary, and I know of 4 diagnoses. I've been there for 6 years, and I know 4 children who've gone to that school and started. We got 4 children in elementary school in West Molly
Right. I grew up in Mount Pearl as well, and to grade 12, I had nobody in my classes at all that were afflicted with that. And as a teacher, I was really shocked by the rate and the incidence. But I was just curious, with all the research and the hard work on behalf of volunteers like yourself and your group, are we making any strides to bring it down, or has it stabilized? But I guess, like you said, there's no official statistics, but anecdotally, it seems to be, on the
rise.
increase. So.
Mm-hmm.
Children seem to be surviving the disease.
Right.
But as you know, even if you see them, I know a couple who did not survive over the past 2 years. But I mean, for us, it's about awareness. The amount of money that actually goes into childhood cancer research is not as much as what people think. It's a very small portion. And if you're on Facebook, you'll see that Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in September. A lot of people are posting these statistics, and even in North America, it's amazing how little money is actually spent on childhood cancer research. A lot of us into the adults, and a lot of the medications as well, they'll use the adult, for some of the sickness, they'll use the adult medications for it, but there's not as much. Now they make great strides, and survival rate is higher, especially in the case of leukemia, but I mean, that had range of about, at the time, in October, we did the max one, it's crossing 0 to 100%, so.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lori, very much. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that. I believe that's all the presentations today, and that is for us an unusual number. There's usually 1 or 2. We had 5 or 6 today. We'll move on now then, Council, to committee reports. We'll begin with Community Services. Deputy Mayor Luck, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And we'll give everybody who needs to scatter a minute to get out.
There you go. I stand up and the room gets cleared.
What?
Yeah.
You know how to clear the room.
But as a high school teacher, Councillor Walsh will know, as a high school teacher,
Thank you,
we're used to
Christine.
that, aren't we?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. This wasn't even a bell. They just stood up and they left.
They kind of knew.
Oh, no. I got a skin on me like a turtle.
All right, Deputy Mayor Locke, the floor is yours.
Our first item, Your Worship, has to do with a celebration of our Queen's Reign. Wednesday, September 9th. It's being held here in the gazebo just outside City Hall in Centennial Park. And we're asking residents and visitors to come join the City of Mount Pearl as we celebrate our Queen's Reign, the longest in our modern history, 12 noon in Centennial Park. And it'll be held inside if the weather doesn't cooperate. It'll be a 15 to 20 minute ceremony, Your Worship, which will include an oath to affirm our allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, as well as the Royal Anthem of Canada. So she has the longest reign is it 80?
Oh,
no,
she's
60.
Oh, she just surpasses
68 years.
Victoria? Queen Victoria?
Yeah. What was the length on? 83?
No,
she's not 83.
No, she's 83.
So is it
63
63?
years,
63, 64 years?
Yeah.
In any
Something
event,
like that.
it promises to be...
Tomorrow at 12 noon, I will know.
Right. And it's 62 or 63. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we invite people out at lunchtime.
That's
Through
right.
that. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. The next item, Your Worship, is an interesting little event being sponsored by the Community Services Department, and it's called the Family Challenge. Starting on September the 12th, which will run till November the 28th, we have a family challenge at the Reed Centre Gymnasium, and residents are welcome to come out. Join us on Saturday mornings from 10:30 to 12:20 p.m., and it's all about having fun with your family. So we encourage the families, the adults, and their children to come out, engage in some new games, play some new classics. Come sign up your family, and the good news is the cost for this wonderful event, it's free. So we're hoping to get people out, get engaged. We're all about active living. So again, from Saturday, September 12th, right, running through till November 28th, residents can come out free of charge and participate in this family challenge.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. And along the same lines, we have a boys and girls activity sessions held for grades 2 to grade 6, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this will be held at our Kenmount Park Centre. Children come there from 3 o'clock till 4:30 in the afternoon from Tuesdays and Thursdays. And there will be experienced staff there that will have first aid, high five, principles of healthy child development, certifications. They'll lead the children in a variety of activities, including crafts and some what they call low organized activities, because as you know, much of their children's lives now are so structured and everything is timed and they got to be here, they got to be there. So it's low organized, or I guess it's free play. It's time for the kids to get back to being kids and do things that they want to do for themselves. So again, we encourage all residents, grades 2 to grade 6, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to come on out to the Kenmount Park Centre and participate in these activities. It starts as of today, and again, the cost is free, no charge at all. So
Wonderful.
Two great events here, and that's it for our committee, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles?
I'm just wondering, at our Kenmount Park Community Centre, we do our after-school programs for the children, for homework clubs and things like that, because we always did that 4 days a week, I thought. And I'm just looking at the times here now for Tuesday and Thursday for those activities. And I know over the years we've done the after-school activities for homework clubs, and I'm just wondering if that's still going ahead.
Mr. Collins?
This is essentially an extension of that. So it's a chance for the kids to play, like Deputy Mayor Locke said, that children, in most cases throughout today, it's very structured. They're sat down in the classrooms learning, so there's a chance for them to go to one room, they can do some homework, things like that, but also a chance in the gymnasium itself to just play.
Okay, there's nothing being dropped or replaced, in other words.
Right.
This is an add-on.
Yeah, I just want to make sure our homework clubs were there for a lot of children in the community that needs help with their homework and help with schoolwork. I just wanted to make sure that was there, because that's a great thing that our community offers for especially children who need help with stuff like that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. Corporate Services Committee, Councillor Aker.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The first item here, and it wasn't in your kit, but we have paper copies, is I'm proud to table the financial statements for the City of Mount Pearl as of the year end December 31st, 2015. In doing so, Your Worship, I want to...
2014.
2014 it is, thank you. We're in the middle of 15 now. It's a clean audit report from Harris Ryan. I want to thank the auditor as well as the staff with the Corporate Services Department for getting the audit done in such an expeditious manner. These statements, Your Worship, are not the same statements that we would use for our budget purposes, but they are audited from the same set of books, and in the spirit of, and also in the regulation of transparency and accountability. I table these statements noting that from a liquidity point of view, the city has, while it doesn't have lots of cash, that would not be a good thing necessarily either for our residents. It does have sufficient cash to meet its upcoming obligations. During 2014, we added about $36 million in buildings to our books, to our city, and that's mostly because of the Summit Center. We did borrow for that. That's reflected in the statements and also has been reflected in the past in all of our budget projections. When you build a project that big, you can't really take a lot of the tax revenue and devote to that. But it continues to show, Your Worship, that the city continues to invest in the city, and we're not borrowing, for example, to cover operations. And with that, I'd like to table these, and I move that we accept them.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions, comments on the financial statements 2014? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you very much. The next two items relate to professional development and training. Councillors Aker and Tessier to go to the Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador Convention November 5th to 7th in Gander.
Are we doing others with that? Are you planning to attend that?
We can, if you wish. They're in the queue, I think. Yeah. And also, we'd like to send Councillor Aker and Tessier to Belize for this coming fall.
Is there enough money for us all to go to Belize? Is that it?
That part was in jest, but I do move the Gander trip.
There is quite a difference from going to Belize and Gander.
Well, Your Worship, I am from Gander, so I'm walking a very tight line with my answer.
Well, I am as well.
It's from close by.
I am as well. However, we shall brag next week, after all our visitors are gone so they can't hear us. We'll brag about how we are now a sister city to the capital of Belize. That'll be impressive.
Nice. Yeah.
All those in favor of sending 2 counselors, and we're going to include the chief administrative officer as well, are we?
Yes, please.
Make it one?
Yeah, that's the next motion. Or
Yeah,
you
so we'll
can
just make it
combine
one
them.
motion?
Yes. Yeah.
All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Final item is invoices for approval, items 1 through 28 in the amount of $1,294,061.81, noting it's primarily, with over half of the funding is for regional services like fire, waste, and public transportation. I also note here, too, that Director Antel's been busy buying a snowblower for the Summit Center in City Hall in the amount of $49,000, and I guess basically all work continues. The problem our friends from Belize probably will never have. All work continues in the off-season towards our snow clearing efforts coming up this winter.
I'm pretty sure Councillor Fraser and the mayor in Belmopan do not spend $45,000 or $49,000 buying a snowblower.
I would agree.
I'm just
no, sir.
pretty confident that doesn't happen.
So I'd like to move that list 1 through 28, Your Worship, please.
Okay. It is moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Invoices for approval 1 through to 28. Question or comment on any? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried, and that's how you spend $1.2 million in a day. That concludes corporate services. We're moving on to infrastructure and public works. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much. And it's great to see the delegation from Carol Ed with us, and I was delighted to be able to join them this morning. And it's great to have Alex and Philip from FCM, who are doing such tremendous work with these folks throughout the Caribbean. So delightful that you're able to be here, and I was really happy to be able to be available this morning to hear at least a part of the presentation, the overview that was presented. Now, for Councillor Ralston's benefit, I just wanted to mention when he was taking pictures, I didn't have time to fix my hair, so
we'll Photoshop it in.
I'll have the correct. You have the same problem, yeah. Okay. No, yours is by design. Mine is not. Anyway, we do have one motion for expenditure that I want to get through, and then just a little update on some regular business from infrastructure and public works. The first is a contract for the H. Neil Windsor building, which is our depot or garage. This relates to an air quality upgrade that's required. We had some tenders. They closed on Friday, the 21st of August. We had 3 compliant bids. We're recommending that the contract be awarded to the lowest compliant bid, which is airtight sheet metal. And the cost for that bid is $185,022.81, and that's including HST. And I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Questions again or comment? Anything? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next is just some project overviews, and I really thank the Director, Antel, for providing these on an ongoing basis. The first is just an update of our capital projects. I'm not going to get into these. You can read them at your leisure if you haven't already. But I do want to make note of the first one there. Some may inquire as to why the line painting on the streets is only at 90%. Most of what's remaining is really some of the thermoplastic work that needs to be done. And the thermoplastic requires a different level of commitment, and of course some asphalt removal and that sort of thing. So we're in the process of doing that. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is the last one, Pumphrey and Princeton Avenue, Your Worship, 50% complete. Dexter is actually on site now, and they continue to work through the development there and do the infrastructure work that's required. But the project has been slowed considerably by the fact that we have a lot of underground cabling, including our street lighting. And at the time, as you know, when that was put in, it was great and it's very beautiful in terms of aesthetics. But when it comes to times like these, it really does slow down the project. Underground wiring and cabling and all of that looks great, but is not particularly conducive to a winter climate like we have. And we need to have sometimes cable companies and very often Newfoundland Power on site before we can make a dig in these areas. So it's slowing down the work, the construction work that's there, but we're at about 50% complete right now, Director Antel, as far as I understand. Is that correct? All right. One other thing I wanted to mention is the bulk garbage. And again, the other information is there for people to read at their leisure. Bulk garbage by appointment has ended. That was a trial for this year that we did that worked out pretty well. We have an early spring collection, and in the summer, residents can call our office, and any time up to the 31st of August, they could book a personal appointment to have bulk garbage removed for free. And of course, the third bulk garbage collection, or the second scheduled collection, is starting now. In fact, this week, I believe the area north of Topsail Road is being scheduled, because I know a friend of mine lives in Branscombe Pond, and he called me last night and said, we have some bulk garbage, and he wanted to be reminded of some of the regulations and the sizes and all of these sorts of things. I don't have the full schedule, but you can check the website for that. But I know next week, I think, is the Powers Pond area. So it's always good to give people a little bit of a heads up. Usually, for me, it's when I see my neighbors, and it's kind of ironic because I'm on council. They should be looking for me for that direction. But I see my neighbors putting out bulk garbage, and I say, oh, it's bulk garbage week, so I have to get on board and get that out. So this is a busy time for staff, and it lasts for about 5 or 6 weeks. So it's extremely busy, extremely demanding, but we get it done. And I think the experiment, Director Antle, that we tried this year in terms of the personal appointments seem to have worked very well. But I'll leave it to the new committee. Our Deputy Mayor Locke, we'll leave it to the new committee, won't we, to decide whether or not it's been a successful project or not. So we'll see. Take care, and thanks very much. That's it for me.
Question on that, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Ledwell with a question?
Walsh. No, Councillor Ledwell's got a question.
For
Councillor Walsh.
Okay. Councillor Ledwell with a question for Councillor Walsh. You all know your Ledwell. You know your Walsh. Okay.
I don't know that.
Just wanted to draw attention to the multi-year capital works with 2nd Street and Windsor Place. I did ask about this particular project a couple of meetings ago, and I know there's been a lot of work happening on Windsor Place, but I guess I'm primarily concerned with 2nd Street, and I don't know if Councillor Walsh or Director Antle can provide an update, perhaps. We're showing 60% complete. Now we're into the month of September. Just wanted to know if we're still on target for completion for that this season.
Mr. Rattle.
Yes, we're still on target for completion this fall. Sometimes when you see the number 60%, that's a financial indicator. Asphalt and curb and concrete are usually some of the more expensive items on the project. So curb has been placed on 2nd Street, and it won't take long for us to get the first lift of asphalt on 2nd Street, and that should occur, I would expect, within the next couple of weeks.
Just if I could, Your Worship, normally when we do these streets, and we had this discussion just before our meeting, we'll do the first layer of asphalt in the fall of the year, and then in the spring we go back to these areas and do the final layer of asphalt, and that's obviously to allow it to settle. It's no different than we do new development. In new development we do an initial layer of asphalt, then we go back the next year and usually put the final layer of asphalt down. So that's been the practice, and that's what we're going to be doing in these streets as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, actually 2 questions. One is on the bulk garbage. Just wondering, Director Antle, if you knew the number, how many actually called in for the private call-ins. If you don't have it tonight, I understand, but I'd like to know how many actually, I know
took advantage of it, you mean?
I know you said it was successful. I'm just wondering how successful it was. I know a few of my neighbours had used it, and I'm just wondering how successful it was, how many people actually took advantage of it, and if we will look at doing it again next year. And regarding the bulk garbage, we have the robocall system that we purchased. I'm just wondering if that would be something that we could use to contact each of the zones and let them know that the bulk garbage is happening. I think it would be a great opportunity to let them know, and we have the system already in place. It wouldn't hurt to make a phone call for each area individually and say, next week your bulk garbage is taking place, because they get the tax bill in the mail, and usually they get that in January, and let them know when it's on. But come June, July, and August, they want to get another one in June as well. They get another one in June, but that's not in the one in June. That's not in the one in June. It's only in January's one. So it'd be nice just to get that robocall, especially. We already have technology. Why not use it for something like this?
Okay, I'm sure the committee will take that under advisement as well.
Thank you.
That concludes your committee report, Councillor Walsh?
It does, thank you very much.
Okay, now, planning and development shows Councillor Walsh as well, but I do believe it's Councillor Ledwell going to...
That is correct. Councillor Walsh was sitting in for me
He
for
was
a
filling
meeting.
in for you for a week.
He was, and I do thank him for that. I appreciate that little bit of assistance. Your Worship, the first item on our agenda this evening is regarding 1176 Topsail Road. The City's in receipt of a development application from that particular property owner for 1174 to 1178 Topsail Road, and what he indicated he was going to do was construct a building extension to the rear of the existing single detached dwelling that's there on the property. However, at this point, he hasn't indicated what the purpose of that said extension was going to be. As well, the property owner has not indicated if he's going to continue solely with the residential use on the property, or if a part or the entirety of the building was going to be converted into a commercial use. Work on the building did commence last year without a permit, unfortunately, and a stop work order was issued by the City on November 28, 2014. That followed then a permit application came in from the property owner in December of 2014. In the time that's elapsed since all this, the committee, our Planning and Development Committee, city staff, we've met with the property owner, but as of yet we still don't have an indication as to exactly what's happening with this extension that's proposed. We don't know if it's residential or commercial in nature, and at this point, certainly we're finding it very difficult to get some information as to what's exactly happening. The current residential use is a non-conforming use, and the proposed use would actually continue or further this non-conforming use, so it is not within the regulations, unfortunately. The extension currently remains in an unfinished state without a permit since last November, and therefore the Planning and Development Committee does recommend at this point that Council issue a removal order to remove the partially constructed extension and that the site be restored to its original condition, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by whom today?
Councillor Walsh.
By Councillor Walsh. Question or comment?
I do have a question, Your Worship.
Yep, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'm just looking at the aerial photograph here, and I see there's a house indicated, and there's some cross-hatching behind that as well. Was that also an extension?
No, that's the development itself. The cross-hatching is the development.
But then there's one further back which says extension to the building. There's a house down here on the bottom, closer to the street. Was that also built on? Yep.
There is actually two buildings, the Deputy Mayor is correct, on the lot. The one at the rear of the building is a commercial use, which has been approved. They did do some renovations on that. They obtained a permit, and everything is above board there for that development. The issue at play here, of course, is the residential piece, which is down below. I think what they probably did is commence some of the work on the residential piece on whatever extension is being done while they were doing the commercial piece, and therefore that caused a bit of a problem because they didn't exactly have a permit for that renovation.
So the rear property is a permitted use, and everything is up to scratch on that. So
Absolutely.
we're just focusing on the house on the lower part of the property.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
I have a comment, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Walsh.
On that particular property, as Councillor Ledwell indicates, that is non-conforming use because that whole area is being transitioned and has been for quite a number of years to commercial development. So, we don't want to encourage or even see, any extension of residential development. And in fact, what's kind of interesting about this upper property, the home that's on the beginning or at the front of the Topsail Road property, is actually smaller than the extension. So the extension is a considerably large extension that's there, and then there's a very large development at the back. It was kind of ironic, and I think Director Yevchik remembers this. We actually met with this couple last year, I think, he and his wife, and I think they're spending some of their time in Florida because of some ailments that his wife has, and that's all good. All we need to do is to try to rectify the situation that they initiated by developing this land without a permit, and so we need to try to bring this to some sort of a head, if you like. But the whole thing, there are very few houses left, actually, on Topsail Road now that are residential in nature of any kind, whether they're an adapted use of residential. There are very few left. This is one of the rare ones, and we need to bring this to a head.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comment? Hearing none, I'll call the matter. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next piece of business is an application from Lindsay Construction on behalf of Falk Safety Services. This is to do with the property at 35 Becklin Road. And what they're proposing to do is construct a fenced-in 10-meter by 20-meter concrete pad and an accessory building at the rear of the property for the purpose of offering firefighting training in association with the previously approved safety training school. The exercises are going to include extinguishing fires in portable fire pans, and a portable sea container located within the fenced-in area will be used to undertake interior safety training. Property is located within the Kenmount Business Park and is surrounded by mostly light industrial uses, so the uses around it are fairly similar in use. As per the municipal plan, the proposed use may be approved by council. The development regulations do consider this a hazardous use, which makes it a discretionary use for council. To that end, a briefing session was scheduled for July 14th. However, we received no representations when representations were called for, and thus the briefing session was cancelled. We as a city, we've reached out to the Fire Commissioner's office for commentary on this proposal. We are still awaiting the reply to my understanding. However, the St. John's Regional Fire Department, while they have no objections to the proposed development, they have commented that water for firefighting purposes has been identified as being provided from a municipal water supply, that the applicant should be advised in writing that they are responsible for contacting the Government Services Centre with respect to confirming if a sprinkler system and or a fire alarm system is necessary for the development, that connections for automatic sprinkler and standpipe systems as well as accesses to the site be built in conformance with the National Building Code, and also that the applicant be required to ensure that adequate fire protection with and around the building is provided at all times. So with all that being said, we have discussed it as a committee, and we are certainly prepared to recommend that Council issue a conditional development permit to Falk Training Services based on the conditions that I've just outlined from the Regional Fire Department, the approval and any conditions set out by the Fire Commissioner, and all other conditions set out in the report, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh. Question or comment? I have a concern which comes to mind. This is in the middle of an industrial park, and it is for firefighter training. So what are they burning? Are we what kind of bellowing smoke are we going to see from this? Does anybody have a concern at all? Did our planners and inspectors and others talk about that at all? Mr. Yevchek?
Your Worship, yes, we did. Basically, what they have two types of structures that they actually have the fire within. One is actually within an enclosed building, which is a smaller fire, and my understanding is, and the other structure is an outdoor pan. Best way of putting it. Basically, on both of the structures, they use propane to start the fire, and then what they do is actually they then do emergency response to suppress the fire, and that's part of the training technique, is how you suppress the fire. So I don't believe you're going to see billowing smoke. What you'll see, there'll be fire and there'll be some smoke, but it won't be the kind of black billowing kind.
And neighbors expressed no concern at all?
There was no response to the public notice to the surrounding property owners, and the public notice was pretty explicit about what was happening. The Regional Fire Department has no objections to it. We understand that the Fire Commissioner's Office has no problem with this either. Matter of fact, the Regional Fire Department will be using this facility as one of their training facilities, so it actually augments their current training needs.
Okay. All right. Deputy Mayor Locke.
I just wondered about like the frequency, Director Yevchek, of this activity. Is this something that's going to be weekly? Will it be monthly? And if we're going to see smoke, I'm sure
we're going to see some.
Well, if you're going to see some, is there like will the surrounding businesses be alerted to the fact that is there any plan to communicate, the frequency of these activities? I'm just thinking, like, if you see a number of residents see smoke coming out of the Kenmount Business Park and they don't know that it's a practice run, is there going to be an influx of calls to our 911 or fire department or anything like that? Just a question on the frequency of events.
Mr. Yevchek.
Your Worship, that I have to find out for sure what the frequency is. It will be an irregular occurrence. I can't tell you if it's going to be daily or weekly or anything, but I can certainly find out for you. If it's a desire as one of the conditions to advise the surrounding property owners of the frequency and the fact that this will be what they'll see, certainly that we can do that as a department. I think that's probably a wise measure, actually.
Yeah, we may be expressing a concern that doesn't really exist, but I've visited such sites in the past, and maybe they're different. But there's fire, and usually they're not surrounded. They're out in fields and open areas. And
not with fault, though. If I could just comment,
anyway,
Your Worship.
Go ahead. You have more knowledge.
In the meeting, we raised some of those same concerns. My understanding and Councillor Ledwell's understanding, we both. Well, I'm not sure if were you at that meeting. No, I raised it then on your behalf. But it was. Falk has these firefighting schools, training schools. I think they have them throughout North America.
Yes.
These are very small, contained and controlled fires, and they're for an expressed purpose. While it might be helpful to have the frequency and the schedule provided, I think some of the alarm or the concern that we're expressing here now is probably not unusual, but it's also not uncommon for Falk to have these kinds of firefighting training institutions.
Well, that's the concern. Is this a neighborhood nuisance, and we didn't realize?
I don't think so. That wasn't the expression that we were given, or the answers that we were given when we asked the questions in committee. But we'll get the schedule and we'll ask the questions. But to my knowledge, and that was the question I did ask, Falk has these in other jurisdictions in Alberta, Ontario, other places as well, these training facilities, and they're in similar environments. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about.
Okay.
No. And they're chemical.
All of that having been said, okay, Councillor Stoyles?
I was just going to say, we have our signs that gives information. I'm just wondering if that could be something we could put in Donovan's when they're doing the fires, if it was once a month or whatever, and let, as people are driving into work in the morning, they could see, well, don't be alarmed today, whatever we want to put on the
Well, I think that's what they're going to check out the frequency of, yeah.
Oh, all right. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Yevchek, final thought?
Just to clarify the comment from Councillor Stoyles, that this is not in Donovan's, it's in the Kenmount Business Park area.
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you. No other question or comment? Going to call it then. All those in favor of the conditional permit as proposed, say aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next item is our development permit list for the period of August 24th to September 4th. 2015. We do have 3 development permits that are on our list this evening, 2 of which you'll note are developments which were approved at our last public council meeting, and I so move.
As moved and seconded, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Moving right along, we have our building permit totals for both the residential and commercial sides of things. Again, August 24th to September 4th, 2015 is our most recent period. For the residential side, you'll note that we had a pretty good period at $907,300, including a number of single dwellings which were constructed up on Finley Stone Drive. So it's good to see that part of the city continuing to be developed, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, carried.
Also, Your Worship, on the business commercial side of things for the same period, our total is $7,417.
Try that again.
I'm reducing it already. $7,417,665, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Don't want to reduce the revenue side of things, do I? Definitely
Please
not. No. Whatever about the expenditures. Anyhow, we have one item that's outside of our kit this evening for planning. You'll see it on your desks, and it is concerning 34 Glencoe Drive and the acquisition of some city-owned land by Immersat Solutions one of our tenants in the Donovan's Business Park.
Yep.
Of course, they had approached the city quite some time ago with the request to acquire a parcel of property which is about 31,700 square feet of city-owned land. It's at the rear of 34 Glencoe Drive. And what they wish to do is extend their operation to include some additional parking and be able to house some more of their employees from around the region. They're all going to be centralized, I believe, at this one location, and that's the reason for the proposed extension. When they had approached the city as it pertains to the sale, an appraisal was conducted. The market value of $91,000 was determined, and Inmarsat has now agreed to pay this amount of money for the land. So we've discussed it at committee, and we certainly see no reason why the transaction wouldn't be processed. So we do recommend approval of the sale of this land at the rear of 34 Glencoe Drive for the amount of $91,000, and pending approval that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the deed of conveyance and the documents for processing, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any question or comment on it at all? I think this was discussed in Committee of the Whole before. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, sir. Transportation Public Safety Committee report is also you today in the absence of Councillor Tessier.
I shall try to live up to her tremendous standards.
You cannot paint as well as she.
I most certainly cannot. And, Christine painted that picture earlier, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, eh? I'm thinking quickly on my feet. Don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I'm not going to say that summer is over, but I will say that tomorrow for most is the first day of school. So to teachers and students, welcome back, if you will. I just want to advise, a reminder to motorists that municipal enforcement here at the city and the RNC are going to be conducting, of course, some spot checks in the school zones, and they're going to be targeting speeders in and around those zones, which, of course, is very important work. We want to ensure the safety of our students and our teachers and all that access our schools in the city. I want to advise that the checks started today in earnest, and certainly will continue for the foreseeable future as we get into a new school year. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that, and certainly advise and encourage the public to keep your speeds down as you move through our school zones and all around the city, really, because we want to make sure that everybody stays safe, especially our students.
Yeah, save some money, drive safe, slow down. Thank you very much for that. That concludes all committee reports. We're moving on to new business. Deputy Mayor Locke.
I was going to raise a question regarding Councillor Ledwell's Transportation Public Safety report there. As you know, we've raised the issue of speeding in the chamber on many occasions, especially in our school zones. I do know that our neighbour is just enforcing or bringing about some speed limit reductions in school zones at certain times of the day. It also takes place in other jurisdictions whereby, between a set hour, say, between 8 and 8:30 or whatever it might be, that we reduce the traffic to 30 kilometers an hour or 40 kilometers an hour or what have you. So I will throw it back to the committee or the new committee to have a look and see if that's something that we could also explore as a means. I know Councillor Walsh and I, through our Infrastructure and Public Works Committee, we did look at, and we will bring back a report on the lights at Michener and Ruth Avenue there, about looking at if there's something we could do with the rate of change. It's not as simple as just giving an all four-way red. It has some implications on the larger traffic system. So I would just ask again if that's something that the new committee could look at, to see if that's something that we could explore in school zones in some areas, just during a set time period. If we can't accommodate it with the light rotation, perhaps we could accommodate it with a speed reduction at certain times. So I'll throw that out there, because that way we wouldn't sort of impact the potential backlogging of traffic that our report generated or suggested might happen. So that may be an option. Just at designated times, you got a flashing speed light during the 45-minute prior to school, that everyone slows down to this. Everyone will know it. The flashing signs go off. You go back to your regular 50 or 60 kilometers, and then when school is out, we could do the same process. It's just another option. So perhaps I could suggest that our committee have a look at that to see if that's something that we could explore.
Absolutely.
All right, on to new business. I have a couple of items here, Your Worship. The first, I want to send out a huge congratulations to our Male Youth of the Year, Mr. Harrison Latham. As we learned last year at our Focus on Youth Awards, Your Worship, this is an incredible young man from all of his accomplishments, but we were notified by Gary Fraser with our Community Services Department that this young man, who's 17 years of age, he was named the top Air Cadet in all of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite an honor to receive. He also received his pilot's license for a single plane engine. So my hat goes off to him. I mean, he's a great young fellow, as we know. And I just wanted to recognize him publicly for this huge accomplishment. The second thing I was going to mention was students are back tomorrow, so Councillor Ledwell mentioned that. And also, as we know, we're going to be shifting up our committee structure after this meeting. So I just want to send a huge thank you out to the Community Services Department and Director Collins and Sharon Ralph and others in the department who came to our meetings with Councillor Stolz. It was a pleasure to work with the department. I think we made some huge progress on a lot of files there. So I just want to say thank you. They're a dedicated staff, as everyone is in our employ. But I just wanted to thank you guys publicly for all the work that you do, and it truly was a pleasure to work with you guys over the last 2 years. Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. What's that? What's that?
You didn't enjoy Infrastructure Public Works?
Director Antle is my fourth favorite director. I'm just kidding. I just as chair, Your Worship, I wanted to acknowledge that, and I did enjoy sitting with Councillor Walsh as well on Infrastructure Public Works, and Councillor Walsh is going to be stuck with me for the next 2 years on planning. No, it was a pleasure. So anyways, my hat goes off to Community Services and, of course, Infrastructure as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Stoyles, for God's sake, save us.
Thank you.
From ourselves.
Thank you again, Your Worship. And speaking of the committees, changes, everything, the North East Avalon Joint Council is going to be starting up again in September, and the first meeting is taking place here on the 23rd of September here in the chamber here in Mount Pearl.
We made reference this morning at our meeting, Councillor Stoyles, and I referenced the Joint Council for the 15 municipalities in this region. So that's what Councillor Stoyles is alluding to. Their first meeting of the season is actually going to be hosted in Mount Pearl.
It's going to be hosted
on the 24th?
On the 23rd.
23rd.
21 councils around.
Is it 21?
21 now.
I thought it was just a 15.
No, they changed about 3 years ago.
We're taking in a bigger crew.
We've taken in the unincorporated areas as well. We welcome them to come and join as well. And there's 3 of them and a few other ones who went out a bit further.
Okay, 21 now.
Went to Harbour Main. We took in Harbour Main. And so we have 21 in total now. And there's going to be election of officers as well. So, and I'm just wondering who the rep for us is going to be, because I don't think it's going to be me anymore. I've been there forever, seems like. And I know, I just want to make a note. I don't know if we appointed anybody for that, in that role yet, or...
we have not.
I don't know, because we
fall under Regional Services side of it.
Because we changed structure, I don't know who's actually going to be, but I certainly want to make sure that we're represented at the meeting. I know it's booked for the 23rd, and I'm probably going to be here for the first meeting anyway on the 23rd, and I know we're going to be making some changes as well to the times and locations and meetings and whatnot. So just want to make a note for that and making sure that we have representative from Mount Pearl. And as Deputy Mayor mentioned, the school, the children are back in school, and I know everybody is excited about having the children back at school and having them safe and sound in the classrooms again. So hope to have a good, safe year. The last thing I want to do, I want to have one more rant about this issue, and it's an issue that has been dear to me, and I've spoken out about a number of times, and that's Canada Post. And I want to say, watching the news last night and listening to Corner Brook and Mayor Charles Pender and what they've done in Corner Brook, and too bad we didn't do that. That was something I would have liked for our council to have taken on such a strong act and said to Canada Post, wait until after the election and then come to us, and then we talk about where you're going to put your super mailboxes, because if the government changes, on October the 19th, and all the mailboxes are stuck here in Mount Pearl, and there's not going to be one in Corner Brook. What if Corner Brook gets to keep the home delivery and Mount Pearl don't? Shame that we really moved, and not that we moved forward, they moved forward, and I'm very disappointed that I'm glad Corner Brook is doing what they're doing. I think more municipalities should have taken that stand and waited until after the federal election, because
Interesting thought.
The NDP and the Liberals both have come out and supported home delivery. So, I mean, I don't know how much they got done here in Mount Pearl. If we can stop it right now or say no to it. I mean, but I think it was a great move on Corner Brook, and I want to say hats off to the Mayor of Corner Brook for taking such a good stand. I've spoken out about it since it started here in Mount Pearl, and I would have liked for us to do it, and I think it was the right thing to do, because what if? That's all I'm saying.
Thank you very much. Councillor Walsh.
Just wanted to ask Councillor Stoyles, how do you really feel about Canada Post? Don't mail it in. Just wanted to extend naturally condolences, Your Worship, to the family of Lana Curran. You all know Wilf Curran, I think.
Yep.
Lana was a student at O'Donnell when I was principal there. She died over the weekend, just 34 years old. Wilf was well known in musical circles with the Masterless Men, but also I think was one of the owners or principals in Pyramid Construction as well. I saw a great, and this is totally unrelated, but I just wanted to extend my condolences to the family. I want to wish you well, Deputy Mayor, as well, in your return to school, along with the, as you say, the kiddies. But I saw a great caption the other day in the paper. It was this person who was in the bathroom, and there was somebody outside banging on the bathroom door and said, "You have to come out." And the person inside said, "No, I'm not coming out." "You have to come out." "No, I'm not coming out." "Well, why do I have to come out?" "You have to go back to school." "Why do I have to go back to school?" And the answer was, "Because you're a teacher." I don't know if that would have been happening in your home or not. Definitely not. Good luck, Deputy Mayor, and enjoy the school year.
Councillor Aker, do you have any real new business?
No, but I have a wife who's a teacher, and I have tried that cartoon on her. It was the teacher under the bed in that particular case. It went over okay, if you know what I mean, right? You know, right?
Too much truth in it.
Too much truth in it, yeah. I too wanted to talk about Canada Post, but maybe from a slightly different perspective than Councillor Stoyles, because now that the train is rolling, I wanted to bring up safety. And I know we had some input, and I guess we've tried to maintain a cooperative relationship with Canada Post, but I'm noting, and I've had some conversations with residents, and there's three areas perhaps we could follow up. I just want to make note of what their concerns are. Some of these super mailboxes are being placed really close to crosswalks. So I would like to know, like keep in mind where I live, we have these super mailboxes. And I would say 90% of the people, when they pick up the mail, you know, even though they live right next door sometimes, they use their car and they drive. So I just wonder if the proper setbacks, you know, according to, I guess, the Highway Traffic Act or whatever other regulations are being maintained and are actually allowing for, you know, the length of a car as well. I don't expect that you'll see 2 or 3 cars pull up at the same time. That's rarely happened to me, but I just wonder if a car parked there and then a pedestrian would be crossing the crosswalk could block the view of the pedestrian. Topsail Road over near Tibbs Auto, and there is some residential component over there. They have a super mailbox on Topsail Road, and it's a 5-lane collector road, not major arterial, I guess you'd say. So there's going to be cars driving along there, and at some point in time, someone's going to pull over. Now, the houses happen to be across the street. I think there's only about 4 or 5 houses, but I wouldn't want to be the person who's going to cross Topsail Road just to get the mail. Is that an appropriate location? I wonder if we could go back to Canada Post and just question, could they continue home delivery for those 4 or 5 houses, or can they find, you know, a roadway or something that's off Topsail Road? It doesn't seem to make sense to me on a street like that they're putting the super mailbox in. And finally, just one super mailbox. A friend of mine in Lindbergh mentioned that at the bottom of Lindbergh Crescent there is a 3-wide super mailbox. Let me just say it's 6 to 8 feet wide.
It's right on the turn.
When they cut out the curb, they cut out 3 feet. So basically, you get a little box you got to stand into, and it's way below grade. And your worship, I can see that in the winter. winter, that's just going to become an ice pit at the end of the day. Perhaps they could level it out and cut the curb a little bit more. Maybe the ship has sailed, and I'm only bringing up instances here which may be, 7 or 8 mailboxes, so I guess basically they're installing, I don't know, in this city, 200 or 300. What's that?
They're just about all done.
They're just about all done?
Mm-hmm.
But I think where there's safety issues, we need to follow up and suggest to Canada Post that maybe we need some changes made, either to the configuration or the location of the mailboxes. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to take a look at all of them, actually. We have mailboxes now. There's a group of mailboxes on the Lindbergh Crescent side that you're talking about near the townhouses. But I believe the mailboxes are oriented towards the walkway, which come January, February, is going to be its own difficulty because we don't plow in there, but they're going to try and plow in there, and that's our walkway system, and I don't know how that's going to work, but anyway.
That actually works because they take the snow and they plow 30, 40 feet in along the trail. Canada Post contract, yeah, and that wasn't the one in Lindbergh.
No, but I know the one I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway. Thank you for that. Councillor Ledwell, new business.
Thank you, Your Worship. Wanted to follow the Deputy Mayor's lead and wish congratulations to Harrison Latham, our Male Youth of the Year. Being the top anything in the country is quite an accomplishment, and so being the top air cadet is certainly a great big deal. And as I said, there's no flies on him getting his pilot's license, So congratulations to him. Wanted to, as I often do, give another little bump. I know we had Christine here earlier to talk about the Arts Association and Art Fusion starting their week coming up on Saturday. This is an organization, folks, that has been around for over 10 years, doing great work in our city, and I just want to encourage the public to get out and support them starting next week. They've got all kinds of great activities for everyone, from young to old. Check out their website at amp.ca and their Facebook and Twitter feeds for all the updates. I think it's really important that we celebrate and support the arts in the city and the great work that Christine and her group are doing. So just a little bump up for that. Also, I want to invite you all, before you go to Art Fusion on Saturday, to come up for a hot dog on behalf of the Mount Pearl Lions Club. A little bit of a hot dog sale fundraiser happening in front of Kent on Saturday morning starting at 10 o'clock. We know the Lions Club, of course, do a great deal of work, including the Santa Claus Parade and many other projects here in the city. So I just wanted to put that on your radar for Saturday so you can get your lunch before you go to Art Fusion.
Thank you, sir, very much. Well, with all of you, I will join the congratulations to young Harrison. He's an outstanding young person, well worthy to be our Youth of the Year, a tremendous example to everyone. We'll send him a letter of congrats on all of his accomplishments on behalf of the city next week as well. I want to recognize that we have a business owner in our community, Scott Bartlett. A lot of you would know him. Owns a number of A&W outlets, including the one here in Mount Pearl. Last week he was inducted as the Grand Master Mason for Newfoundland and Labrador. And we had the Grand Master Mason for the Scottish Masons Lodge actually here in the city for his induction ceremony. The CEO and I had the pleasure of meeting with them, spending a half an hour with them, and sharing a great discussion about volunteer groups, fraternal organizations, how they're growing in some areas, why they're having difficulty attracting members and others, and so on. But we want to pass on a congratulations and put it on the record to Scott, to Mr. Bartlett, an outstanding accomplishment on his part. When you think of the commitment that he has to that style of business, to find the time to be able to do this kind of community outreach work that he's done, and to rise to the top of the ranks is pretty outstanding. Anyway, I want to also let you know that the City of Mount Pearl on this coming Wednesday morning, not this, the September 16th, not this Wednesday, but next, yours truly will be hosting a CEO charter breakfast on behalf of WHSCC, the Workers' Comp Group. We're inviting municipal people from all across the region to join us for a breakfast that morning. There's going to be a discussion and a talk about safety, particularly as it involves our employers in the field, and we're going to talk about the Municipal Sector Safety Council a little bit there as well. We're hoping that we're going to have a nice large turnout. All of the invitations to the different communities went out about a week ago. But that is happening on Wednesday, September 16th. All of council, any and all of you, welcome to join us for that if you can. And of course, on that very same day, that afternoon at 12 noon,
at the Summit Center, there's going to be a ceremony regarding the reopening of the Hall of Fame. And I'd invite all of council to join us for that if you can as well. And one final note about Canada Post. I got a letter in the mail today. And Canada Post said to me in my letter in the mail, Dear occupant, please note that the keys for your new community mailbox will arrive sometime between September 21st and October 16th. So it would seem to me that if they're not going to do door-to-door daily delivery, they'd kind of be able to pin down that time frame just a little bit, don't you think? They will be delivered before October 19th. That seems to be what it's saying here. Anyway, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Ledwell. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.